Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at another submission by Angie and Dante. Angie's in Australia. That's why it looks like it's summer down there while we're freezing here in the United States. Now, she's starting off in a trot today, so we didn't see any walk work to begin with, but I know she's been getting her walk going really well. I like this trot in that it's more active than somewhat we've seen before, so that's good. He's becoming more active. He just still needs to stretch deeper into the contact. If you see coming through there, you can see how the lower portion of his neck is quite a little bit U-neck there. He's telling me he's still pulling a little bit with his shoulders and not getting underneath himself. And just right there, he just needs to get longer and lower in this. It's not a bad trot, but it's not quite all the way there yet. Now, going to the canter work, it's kind of interesting, you know, and I tend to find that thoroughbred horses are more this way in that some of them get over their backs better in the canter than they do in the trot, because it's what they're bred to do is canter. So some of them tend to do that a little easier. About 1 in 100 horses that I see altogether. Very few warm bloods, interestingly enough. But thoroughbreds, I often find them that way. Once again, this is a good active trot, but he's just not stretching deep enough to really get over his back. So we can see, once again, as he comes through this corner, you can see how the lower part of his neck there is kind of a little bit U-neck there. It tells me he's not really getting all the way down there as deep as he can be. So I want you to continue working on trying to get your stretch deeper in the trot work. Now, once again, you didn't show me any walk work today, but really be sure that you get him all the way there in the walk work before you start the trot, so that you have more chance. Once again, the walk is where we explain everything to the horse, and if we get him really right in the walk, the chances of your trot being better are much greater, so to speak. So once again, not a bad active trot. You know, he's getting more active all the time, which is way better than when I first saw him, but he just still needs to get deeper over his back. That is to stretch deeper into the contact. That's a little better there when he comes around there. That's starting to look a little better. And once again, always watch the back end of the horse. Watch the hocks of the horse. Very often, you know, people tend to look at the horse's faces. We want to look at the back end all the time. What's the back end and the back doing? How's it developing? You know, I spend a lot of time looking at my horses without saddles on, you know, looking at their muscling and see what's developing and what's not. Seeing, getting an eye for that just subtle lifting of the back and how it changes day by day is what we want to do as trainers. We have to keep a very close eye, and being able to recognize those small changes are very, very important to know that you're on the right track, because nothing happens in a very large way. You know, that is, at first, when we first get a horse to stretch, it'll look dramatically different all of a sudden. But then the changes come very slowly, and you have to take our time. So this is a good canter. He's getting over his back quite nicely. And once again, see, look at the neck muscles as he comes around there. And you can see that the top line of his neck is more engaged in the canter work than it was in the trot work. So that tells me the canter is not going to hurt him. That's a good thing. So we just still need, but watch when he comes back to the trot, how the back end kind of falls out behind him there a little bit. And he just gets a little hollow, and he's just kind of pulling along. If you look very closely, you'll kind of you can begin to see that he's pulling a bit with the front legs instead of coming underneath himself deeper and lifting and pushing himself forward. And that will increase as soon as you get him to stretch a little deeper in the trot. But once again, I like the activity of this. You know, I love the fact that you're never pulling on his reins. You know, you're never stopping up the downwards transition or overcompensating, that is, trying to make them look like something that they're not by holding the head down. So that's really good. Now, this trot looks a little better here. But once again, still just not quite deep enough. So I'd like you to go back to your homework, get him a lot deeper in the walk before you begin. Getting that walk like that. Yeah, really nice. So at least you're getting it there in the walk. If you can get there in the walk, you'll get there the rest of the way. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you next time.